understand what Cern is, if they would just indulge me for a little bit, they'll have a clear understanding of why they're doing it, what they're looking for, and what is the potential and the facts that will come out of these experiments. Cern, and amazingly, it won't come from the scientific community or anybody who has knowledge of physics. They will not tear it apart because they understand what I'm saying. So I'm gonna make this as basic as possible. I want you all to imagine, if you want to know what Cern is doing, I want you to imagine you come into a world and you find architecture all over the place, buildings and homes and houses, and you think they're beautiful, and it's really a big discovery. You find out with the houses, you can house people. You can do many things with a house, with a structure. All of a sudden, after many years, you become curious and you say, what's holding all this together? And you begin to find not nails that you can take out, but glue that has bonded itself to the materials. And you become interested in that glue that's holding the structure together. And so you're fascinated by this glue, and you've tried everything to replicate it. You can't, because it's hardened. Glue is hardened. You come to the realization the only way to find out how this glue is working is to break it down to its basic particles. And you have to have that glue in its former state, not the state after it's already hardened, right? So you don't want it in the cured state, the state that you can see. You want it in its initial state, which is a liquid state, before it hardens. And so Cern, basically, is a device that will allow them to examine particles in their initial state, not after everything is bonded together. That's a very simple way to look at what Cern is doing. They're trying to find the glue that holds everything together, is what they're doing. That's the purpose of Cern. Now, what has come out of Cern is called antimatter, which was first actually produced. It was first produced in 1955. And Cern is a very old organization, but it was produced in 1955, and they found positrons, which are anti-electrons. To understand what antimatter is, I'm going to have to explain the very bare basics of what matter is. And believe me, it's going to get very weird here shortly, because you're going to begin to see exactly what they're doing. But you have to understand what you're looking at now. The matter and antimatter are in fact opposites. Now, the matter that we have in front of us, if you take a piece of wood, nothing happens. It's just a piece of wood. But if you set that wood on fire, you have caused a reaction. And then it's in a dangerous potential state. It's active. If you have a battery outside of your cell phone, it does nothing. You put the battery inside the cell phone, the electrons begin to flow. The electrons will flow from one place to another. Essentially, that's what electronics are, the control of electrons. They control the direction, the speed of electrons, which create tiny pulses. They flow or don't flow, flow or don't flow. Those are called gates. Those gates form computers. And with a computer, we can do fascinating things. This is why they did, in fact, take Nikola Tesla's findings, because he discovered some things with electrons and protons that were very fascinating. Electricity within itself is a visual observation of electrons and protons in their active state, non-controlled state. Antimatter is the opposite of the matter that we can control. Antimatter cannot be controlled. In fact, when they first produced antimatter, they had to have a facility to contain it, because unlike the wood, where you have to have a reaction to cause it to burn, antimatter, you have to have a containment to cause it not to burn. That's the only way they can store it, with massive facilities to store it. Let me give you an example. In a nuclear bomb, it takes timing, which takes electronics, and the explosions have to be just right to cause a reaction. That's a nuclear bomb, like the Hiroshima bomb, which takes pounds of nuclear material. to cause it to react. And it has to be very precise. Well, let's go the opposite. Let's say we had antimatter, correct? If we had 1 gram of antimatter, that would equal about 42 or 40, let's just say 45 kilotons of TNT, which is about 4 Hiroshima bombs. And it's already inherently unstable. It's unstable. The only way to harness antimatter is to contain it. And it takes very large and expensive facilities to contain just 1 gram of antimatter. Some have failed, some have not. If those containment devices fail, they cause mega quakes. That's what happens when they fail. Now we're talking small, tiny drops of antimatter. I mean, just drops of raw antimatter. It's highly unstable. It has to be isolated from the rest of reality when it's contained in a literal sense. Now, given that this can be weaponized, which is true, well, there are other implications that the average person has not thought about.
Hi everyone, I'm going to stop this video right here. If you haven't seen all of this video, it's a really good video. I recommend it. I know it probably sounds crazy, but you know, working for 9 to 15 hours a day, I am just learning what Cern is. Yes, I was a sheeple, I admit it. I am now in Sheepaholics Anonymous. When it starts talking about baby black holes and the paranormal and bringing back evil matter, dark matter, it kind of makes you wonder, is this all worth it? I mean, I'm not the only one that finds it strange that when they started the Cern back up, April 25th, 2015, simultaneously, Nepal had an earthquake at 7.8. I mean, at the same time. How ironic is that? Think about that. Let me read this to you. Dr. Stephen Hawking recently warned that the reactivation in March of the CERN's Large Hadron Collider could pose grave dangers to our planet. The ultimate reality check. We were warned. Hawking has come straight out and said the God particle found by CERN could destroy the universe, leaving time and space collapsed. As shared in the second video, is CERN the most dangerous thing to the cosmos? That could lead to the ultimate destruction of the Earth and the entire universe. Recent developments prove to us the scientific community is no longer able to explain reality without looking at the supernatural.
What's up, guys? I gotta tell you, this CERN super collider is one of the most interesting things that I've come across because this has so much mystery tied towards it. So much that we don't know. I mean, it's almost like they have their own government. They have their own currency. They have their own laws over there at CERN. I mean, it is beyond just wild. And you guys sit there and think, what in the heck are they really doing? What are they into? I think it's like, it runs like 17 miles. That is just crazy. And it has, I don't know, I can't even tell you how many countries are involved in this. And you can see the newscast. They're about to open something March 2015. And this is, will the gates of hell open? I mean, I don't know. If you don't know much about it, get into it. It's just deep of the stuff that they're going on. And there's been so many tales and stories of opening black holes and opening dimensions to demons and you name it. And the only fact that we do know is they're trying to create the God particle. They're trying to create something supernatural. That is a fact. That ain't conspiracy theory or what. They're trying to create the God particle, something supernatural. And this is a good article with the opening of CERN's Large Hadron Collider. It talks about Stephen Hawking, and it warns, you know, what is going to happen when they reactivate it. And this is a good one. Does CERN headquarters symbol of Shiva, dancing cosmic? Death and destruction signal the true purpose of CERN. Here's a look at Shiva, the Hindu god. And look at this. I mean, this is what they got out there. Shiva, the goddess of destruction. I mean, look at CERN. 666. I mean, this is what they got. I mean, what are they really into? I mean, seriously. I mean, look how freaking big this thing is. 17 miles. What are they really trying to open? What are they really trying to get into? I mean, seriously. But you can read this about Stephen Hawking and other people are getting concerned of what they're really trying to get into, open. And they're even talking about the apostle blowing up the planet, opening a wormhole, you name it. But like I said, whatever they're doing, you cannot deny this. They are trying to recreate the God particle, supernatural. But here you go. They reopen March 15, and what the heck is going to happen when they do?
This site is called Techworm. It's also talking about the coincidence between the Nepal earthquake and Cern starting up. Of course, they're always going to put that humor in about conspiracy theory. You'll see that down here as well. They also like to add that to anything that's unexplained. And if it is explained the right way, it's a conspiracy theory. So this is talking about the Nepal earthquake, which killed over 7,000 people. And their aftershocks were 6.7s after that.
April 25th, 2015. You're looking at the Himalaya Mountains on the northern border of India. Now, near Nepal, a lot of people have been killed by this morning's quake. We had a large 7.8. You're looking at an aftershock of 6.6, and probably a dozen more in that area. But the timing is important here because Cern was cranking up and running at very high power at this point. You see this 7.8, it was at 15 kilometers depth. Now the 6.6 was at 14.7, so very close to the same depth. If you remember, India pushes under this continent. The Himalayas, over millions of years, have pushed up to that height of close to 29,000 feet. But when you have pressure on the Indian continent, it pushes under the continent to the north, under the Nepal area. Again, a lot of people have been hurt today. A lot of people have been killed. I'm sure that in these villages, they're going to find more and more people that are injured, needing first aid, relief, food, water, things like that. It's not very populated, but because the quake was so powerful, the avalanches will be a problem. The aftershocks are still continuing. Now let's look at Cern because they were powering up. Now what they've done is now went to a priority beam dump on both sides. I think they did it because they had a surge in power during the time of these quakes. Now you've got to remember, Cern is 2 hours ahead of the UTC time. The quakes are in universal time, which is about 6 hours ahead of East Coast, but Cern will be 2 hours ahead of that, and they're located on the Franco-Swiss border there. But what they're saying here is it was a post-mortem information. They had a protection dump and a multiple system dump. I'll show you that on their home page. Also, you can see that the only thing that's green on the red side is the setup beam, and they're starting to pre-cycle again. Beam is foreseen around 1830. Again, that would be about 1630 UTC time. Let's look at the timing on the scale. Very important. You're going to see that the black line is beam energy. The red and blue lines are beam 1 and beam 2 intensity. They powered up the beam energy. On the fourth time, they had enough power to let the beams in, and you see what type power spikes they were getting. But notice the fourth spike before the red and blue lines of the beam intensity is picked up. It looks like what happened. The last spike that you see before the blue and red lines, which are the beam intensity, that last black spike was at 8:11. If you notice the timestamp down here, at 8:11 UTC time, that beam spiked. The 7.8 earthquake hit at a 6:11. They're 2 hours difference UTC time and Cern time. It was exactly at the same time. Then you saw how long it took them before they had the priority dumps. You had this many aftershocks. Now they're getting up later this evening to get this thing running again. Guys, there was no major solar activity, no coronal mass ejections. We do have a large solar filament coming around the top left quadrant. We've been watching a few days. But here's your time. As I'm doing the video, You can see it's 6:23 in Geneva, Switzerland. That's where Cern is. Now, universal time, there's 2 hours difference, and that if you're looking at the charts on Cern as you go through that, remember it's not using universal time the same way that our USGS does as far as timing these earthquakes. Again, this is universal time, or Greenwich Means times 425. You see the 2 hours difference, and that's what we're dealing with. Guys, I hope these scientists look at this information and tie it together. But I'm on the road again. Excuse the audio. I'm on my laptop, guys. It's a heads up. We'll update. Be safe.
I think no matter how much proof that you have that this is just way too coincidental, they're never going to stop doing what they're doing. It may sound crazy, but I think the elite want to be gods. Okay, so what if they do find God? Then what? What if they find Satan? Then what? Where the hell would they go from there? You know what's scary? I'm afraid to find out. Well, thanks for watching.